Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is Mansoor Azam Qazi, and today I'm going to talk about the superpower projecting the strength. Viewers, while quietly searching out for a way out, this is what the strategy America is having. If you strip away the rhetoric and the focus purely on the strategy, one thing becomes unmistakably clear. This was not a victory speech which Donald Trump gave. This was a narrative management exercise. Donald Trump stood before the American public claiming that the war is almost won, but the mission is close to completion. And yet, in the same breath, he offered no roadmap, no timeline, and no clarity whatsoever on how this war actually is going to end. And that's the contradiction which is the real story. Because historically, when a superpower is winning decisively, it defines the end game. It sets the terms. It controls the narrative with a precision. Here we saw the opposite. We saw repetition instead of strategy, confidence without details, and escalation without a clarity defined exit. Actually, that tells you one thing. Washington is not struggling to fight this war. It is struggling to finish it. Now, look at the ground reality. Iran is still operationally active. It continues to strike back. Its regional leverage from maritime choke points to proxy networks remains intact. And most importantly, the assumption of regime collapse has not materialized. So the idea that the war has already been won does not align with the facts on the grounds, which brings us to the real strategic dilemma facing United States. How do you exit a conflict without looking like you are exiting under pressure? And this is where a more sophisticated layer of geopolitics begins to merge. The China factor. Because if direct military victory is uncertain and domestic support is declining, then the logical next step is not escalation, it is mediation. China today is uniquely positioned. It has deep economic ties with Iran. It has global leverage, and unlike the United States, it is not directly entangled in a conflict. So the question is, Washington is quietly opening the door for Beijing to step in, not as a peacemaker out of the goodwill, but as a strategic intermediary that can deliver a control outcome, an outcome where United States avoids the optics of defeat, Iran avoids the optics of surrender, and the region avoids a full-scale systematic war. In simple terms, we may be witnessing is the search for face-saving equilibrium. But here, the complication comes in. Iran is not in a position where it feels compelled to concede. If anything, its continued retaliatory capability strengthens its negotiating posture, and if Tehran believes that time is on its side, then external pressure, even from China, may not be enough to force a quick compromises, which means this conflict is entering a very dangerous phase, a phase where rhetoric says we are close to end, but strategy suggests we are not even close to a settlement. And that gap between narrative and reality is where escalation risks multiply. Because when leaders promise quick victories without clear pathways, they often corner themselves into decisions that prolong conflict rather than resolve it. So the real takeaway from all this speech is not what was said, but what was missing. No exit plan, no diplomatic framework, no acknowledgement of the limits of military outcomes, and in global politics, absence of clarity is often more telling than any declaration of strength. The coming days will be critical. If China steps in, we may see a managed de-escalation. And if this war risks driftly into prolonged, unstable confrontation with no nuclear winner, and that is the paradox of this moment. A superpower projecting strength while quietly searching a way out. So now the question will be that exists is to be negotiated, or will it be forced by the realities on the ground? The answer will define not just this conflict, but the credibility of power in global order going forward. Thank you very much.